As we journey into the shadows of biblical history, we will unveil the hidden mysteries that lie within these ancient texts and explore one of the most iconic biblical figures, the Apostle Peter. How did Peter's path intersect with that of Jesus? Did he seek the Messiah, or did destiny have other plans? The story of Peter begins in a small fishing village called Bethsaida, on the edge of the Sea of Galilee, where the sea stretched into rivers and streams and the fish swam abundantly. Peter, known as Simon at the time, was born. Alongside his brother Andrew, they lived as simple fishermen. Peter's simple life took an unexpected turn when he encountered a captivating preacher by the shores of Galilee. A charismatic figure spoke to a crowd that had gathered at the water's edge. It was not just any preacher, though. It was a preacher named Jesus. Jesus approached the fishermen and called out and said unto them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Matthew 4:19. Peter, though, wrestled with uncertainty, but he was curious. He faced a life-altering decision. Would he give up all that he's known and follow this mysterious preacher, or would he stay and live his simple life on the shores of Galilee? Peter craved adventure and uncertainty. Jesus of Nazareth's reputation as a man who could heal the sick had spread like wildfire throughout the region. A man who was no more than a stranger to Peter would soon become the center of his world. With the brothers' hearts stirred in the presence of Jesus and his divine authority, they left everything to follow him without hesitation. A decision that would forever alter the course of their lives. As Peter embarked on his newfound role as a disciple of Jesus, he found himself not only an observer, but a participant in extraordinary events. What he witnessed was nothing short of a miracle. On the third day at a wedding in Cana, Peter, along with other disciples, saw firsthand Jesus turn ordinary water into the finest of wines, a tangible testament to Jesus' divine authority over creation. With everyone in shock, Peter and his brother Andrew began to understand the supernatural power that resides in their teacher Jesus. It did not stop there, though. Peter and his fellow disciples became regular witnesses to a series of astonishing miracles. One of the most iconic moments occurred during an insurmountable storm on the Sea of Galilee. The wind howled and the waves raged, threatening to capsize their boat. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." Peter, spurred by a mixture of faith and curiosity, boldly asked Jesus, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Matthew chapter 14, verse 28. In response, Jesus simply said, "Come." With heart-pounding anticipation, Peter stepped out of the boat and onto the turbulent sea. For a few exhilarating moments, he walked on water, defying the laws of nature. It was a profound demonstration of faith in the midst of chaos. However, as Peter momentarily shifted his focus from Jesus to the storm, fear gripped him, and he began to sink. Jesus, ever gracious, reached out and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God," teaching Peter a valuable lesson about the importance of unwavering faith. These experiences left an unforgettable mark on Peter's heart and mind. They were living proof of Jesus' divinity, reinforcing his belief that Jesus was indeed the long-awaited Messiah, the Son of God. The miracles they witnessed became a source of strength and conviction as Peter continued to follow his extraordinary teacher, even when faced with challenges and uncertainties that lay ahead in their remarkable journey together. Another iconic moment in Peter's journey occurred at Caesarea Philippi, where Jesus posed a pivotal question to his disciples. In Matthew 16, verses 15 through 16, he asked, "But what about you? Who do you say I am?" Peter, speaking on behalf of the disciples, boldly declared, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." It was a profound confession of faith, and in response, Jesus affirmed Peter's declaration. In Matthew chapter 16, verse 18, he declared, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." Peter's journey with Jesus was not without tests. It was a night of profound significance, known as the Last Supper. As Jesus shared his final meal with his disciples, a thick tension hung in the air. During this intimate gathering, Jesus, with deep sorrow in his eyes, made a startling revelation. In Matthew 26, 31, 35, he told his disciples, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.'" Upon hearing this, Peter, always being the passionate and loyal disciple, protested vehemently, declaring that he would never fall away, even if he had to die with Jesus. His words reflected his unwavering love and dedication to his teacher, whom he believed to be the long-awaited Messiah. Yet, as the events of that night unfolded, the disciples, including Peter, found themselves in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was there that Jesus agonized in prayer, while his disciples struggled to stay awake. The looming arrest of Jesus by the religious authorities weighed heavily on their hearts. Suddenly, the moment they dreaded arrived. Judas Iscariot, one of their own, arrived with a detachment of soldiers and identified Jesus with a traitor's kiss. Chaos erupted as the disciples realized the gravity of the situation. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 56, it is recorded that all the disciples deserted him and fled. It was in the midst of this turmoil that Peter, the disciple who had once boldly declared his allegiance, found himself confronted by a servant girl who recognized him as one of Jesus' followers. He feared being associated with Jesus at this perilous moment. Peter adamantly denied any connection. This denial marked the first of 3 denials, just as Jesus had foretold. As Peter distanced himself from Jesus, he moved closer to the courtyard, where the religious leaders and soldiers were questioning Jesus. The pressure mounted, and the disciples' fear intensified. 2 more times, Peter was confronted, and each time he vehemently denied any association with Jesus. The final and most poignant denial occurred when Peter's Galilean accent gave him away, as he was recognized as a follower of Jesus. As the rooster crowed, the weight of what had just transpired began to sink in. In Luke 22 and 61, we read that the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. It was a moment of profound sorrow and understanding between the teacher and his disciple. The realization of his threefold denial struck Peter like a tidal wave. He was broken, humbled, and overwhelmed by guilt and remorse. The very act he had sworn never to commit had come to pass, just as Jesus had foretold. The anguish in his heart was indescribable. Peter's denial of Jesus was born out of fear, self-preservation, and the overwhelming uncertainty of that harrowing night. He had not yet fully comprehended the magnitude of Jesus' mission and the significance of his impending sacrifice on the cross. In the face of danger and uncertainty, Peter's natural instincts took over, leading him to disown his beloved teacher and friend. This moment, however, marked a profound turning point in Peter's journey. It revealed the depths of his humanity, his vulnerabilities, and his need for transformation. The denial would haunt Peter in the days to come, but it would also pave the way for a profound encounter with grace and redemption, ultimately shaping him into the rock upon which the early church would be built. However, as dawn broke on the 3rd day, everything changed. The tomb was found empty, and Mary Magdalene and other women reported angelic encounters, declaring that Jesus had risen from the dead. The news spread among the disciples, filling them with a mixture of disbelief and awe. According to the Gospel of John, Peter and several other disciples decided to return to their former livelihood, fishing on the Sea of Galilee. It was as if they were retracing their steps to the beginning of their journey with Jesus. They fished through the night, but caught nothing. mirroring the fruitless toil they had known before their encounter with Christ. As dawn broke, a figure stood on the shore, shrouded in the early morning mist. The figure called out to them, instructing them to cast their net on the right side of the boat. When they followed the stranger's advice, they made an astonishing catch of fish, an abundance so great that it echoed the miraculous catch that had initially drawn Peter to Jesus. The disciples recognized the divine hand at work and realized that it was the Lord himself who had orchestrated this miraculous catch. In their excitement and reverence, John yelled, "It is the Lord!" Peter, overcome with emotion, leaped into the water and swam to the shore to meet Jesus, leaving the others to bring in the net. This impulsive act of devotion mirrored the Peter of old, the one who had stepped out of the boat to walk on water to Jesus, and who had boldly declared his love and commitment to the Lord. The encounter on the shore was deeply intimate and profound. Jesus had prepared a meal of fish and bread for his disciples, and they gathered around him. It was during this moment that Jesus turned his attention to Peter. In a symbolic gesture, Jesus addressed Peter's threefold denial. He asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" Each time, Peter responded with a heartfelt affirmation, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." The significance of this interaction cannot be overstated. It was not only a restoration of Peter's relationship with Jesus, but also a reaffirmation of his calling and purpose. With each affirmation of love, Jesus entrusted Peter with a sacred responsibility to feed his lambs and take care of his sheep, symbolizing Peter's role as a shepherd of the early church. The transformation in Peter was evident. From a simple fisherman, he had become a bold and unshakable pillar of the early Christian church. His journey with Jesus had taken him from the shores of Galilee to the heights of faith and leadership. In Acts 2, on the day of Pentecost, it was Peter who fearlessly stood before a vast crowd, proclaiming the gospel with power. His words pierced their hearts, leading to the conversion of thousands, and thus the church was born. Peter's journey with Jesus continued with episodes of healing, persecution, and unwavering commitment to spreading the message of salvation. His miraculous escape from prison, his encounters with Gentiles, and his letters to early Christian communities all showed his dedication to Christ. As we reflect on the life of Peter, we witness a transformation from a simple fisherman to a passionate follower of Christ. His journey was one of ups and downs, of faith and doubt, but through it all, he emerged as a rock on which the church was built. The story of Peter reminds us that God can take ordinary individuals and use them